for giving me the opportunity to engage in the preparation process in Shanghai, and also give me the opportunity to present my paper here. My topic is Institutional Balancing Games in East Asia, an analysis framework based on traditional Chinese culture. Well, regional institution buildings in East Asia has made great progress since the Asian financial crisis. But there are still some great challenges in promoting the regional cooperation in trade and security fronts, such as the leadership competition in the regional cooperation, and also the escalation of the territorial disputes. I'm actually very interested in the strategic interactions among the stakeholders in the regional cooperation in East Asia. So my paper is trying to explore under what condition the players, or we say the stakeholders in East Asia, will choose to cooperate with each other. And I borrow some ideas from the traditional Chinese wisdom, that's the framework of 天时地利 and 人和. I'll explain what does 天时 and 地利 and 人和 mean later. And try to integrate the framework with the institutional balancing models and to develop a new TDR framework for analyzing the strategic interactions in the regional cooperation. Because I have based my research on the institutional balancing model, so I need to introduce the institutional balancing theories by Dr. He Kai. According to the institutional balancing theory, that the related powers in East Asia take institutional balancing as a major strategy to constrain and undermine the target state's power and influence. And Dr. He has divided the strategies into three types. The first is inclusive institutional balancing, and exclusive institutional balancing, and inter-institutional balancing. And here's are the definitions. Inclusive institutional balancing refers to the strategy that the states try to include a target state into an institution and constrain their behaviors by rules making. And exclusive institutional balancing refers to states' strategy to extending a target state from an institution so as to impose the pressure on it. And inter-institutional balancing refers to a strategy that a state advocates a particular institution in order to undermine the influence of another institution dominated by a target state. And we know that the interaction is just the combination of different strategies from different parts. So I tried to combine different strategies, and I got a conclusion that I think, considering the outcomes of the interactions, or I said the equilibrium states, sorry, I'm a little nervous. And there are two types of interactions among the regional members in East Asia. The first type, I name it as convergent interaction. It refers to the players take inclusive institutional balancing strategy towards each other. It means that we want to include the other partners or the other target state into the institution. So it means we would like to cooperate with each other. Then the outcomes is marked by the launch of the negotiations or the establishment of an institution. Afterwards, the initial games becomes an intra-institutional balancing games, and the path of regional integration tends to converge. And the other type is divergent interaction. The players use either the exclusive institutional balancing strategy or the inter-institutional balancing strategy towards each other. And the outcome is that the players come into the inter-institutional balancing strategy, and the path of the regional integration tends to diverge. And I made a table to containing all the contents of the framework. You can see here on the screen. And my paper is trying to explore under what condition the convergent interaction may arise in East Asia, and how to avoid divergent interactions. In order to answer these questions, I borrowed the 天时地利人和 framework from Chinese traditional culture and develop a new framework. Now I'll introduce what does 天时地利 and 人和 mean. 天时 its original meaning means the right time for a particular activity, and originally refers to the condition depending on the climate or weather condition, such as farming season and the attacking time in a battle, the zero time. And afterwards, it was used to refer to the favorable situation for a target activity, or we can call it strategic opportunity. We know that the main objective of regional cooperation is to establish the supply mechanism for regional public goods supply. So therefore, the favorable condition for regional cooperation depends on systematic risks, such as the international financial crisis or traditional or non-traditional threats. And 地利 originally refers to a particular player's geographical advantages in a given activity, and now refers to the positional advantages. Position has different meanings. We know that the neural list distinguishes positions in a system by the difference in capacities, while the network analysis defines positions among a cluster of states by difference in their centralities in the social network, and I took both of them. I mean, the position I consider is both the hard power position and the soft power position. So in the new TDR framework, 地利 focuses on how relative disparities in position affect the player's perception of risks, especially the expectation of individual risks, and therefore affect the player's behaviors. And third, 人和. What does 人和 mean? 人和 originally means the harmony of the stakeholders and focuses on the relations of participants in an activity, and implies that harmony state of relations contribute to the success of an activity. The idea of harmony derives from the ancient Chinese philosophers' understanding of nature, and is then applied to interpret the social phenomenon and also the social relations. According to the concept of a community of shared destiny proposed by our President Xi Jinping, a harmony state of interstate relations is based on mutual benefit, mutual interest, and mutual respect, and in which the players try to avoid, I think we should say manage to avoid confrontations or conflict. In the TDR framework, 人和 examines how dynamics of interstate relations affects the player's perception of individual risks, especially the risk in reality. In regional cooperation, the relations among the stakeholders of the regional cooperation determines their preference on the suppliers of the RPGs, I mean the regional public goods. So this framework takes the dynamics of the interstate relations as a criterion for the 人和. When applied to analysis of regional cooperation, the TDR framework develops into a new version that takes systematic risks, relative disparity in position, and also dynamics of interstate relations into as the main factors affecting the players' strategies. And I argue that the actors' behaviors and their interactions depending on their risk perception. And we know the risk perception based on their judgment on the systematic risks and also the individual risks. So we can see on the screen that the systematic risk just corresponds to itself, and the relative disparity in positions corresponds to the expectation for individual risks. And the dynamics of interstate relations corresponds to individual risk in reality. All these factors affect the risk perception. And we know that perceptions are based on both realities and expectation. So I have made three hypotheses on the conditions under what conditions different types of strategic interactions will arise. And my hypothesis is like this. The first one, where there is a commonly perceived high level of regional risks and a relative declining hegemony, there could be a convergent state of strategic interactions between the declining hegemony and some of the emerging powers. And the second one is where there is a low level of expected regional risks, a multipolar regional structures. It means the relative low disparities in position and a harmless state of interstate interactions. There could be a convergent state of strategic interactions among the regional members. And the third one is where is relative high risk perceptions derived from disputes with a dominantly rising power. Divergent interactions may arise amongst the regional members. In my paper, the new TDR framework is used to examine the three pairs of cases to explore the potential of the hypothesis on condition under which a particular type of interaction will arise amongst regional members. The first, namely the Colombo Plan and the ADB, focuses on the strategic interactions between the global hegemony and other great powers. And the second pair, I use the case study is about the AMF, the Asian Monetary Funds, and the CMI, Qingmai Initiative. It's trying to identify the factors impacting the responses of small and middle countries to the initiative of regional powers. And the last pair, I choose the case studies, the East Asian Summit and also the RCP, which emphasizes the reason why the interactions among regional members degenerate into divergent interaction. My finding in the case study confirms to my hypothesis, and I only take one example, that is the convergent interaction between the global hegemony and great power. In this comparison, I choose the Colombo Plan and the Asian Development Bank. Both of the institutions are established during the Cold War, which initially aiming at supplying RPGs within the capitalism clubs and was then open to more regional members. There are some similarities in the strategic interactions between the US and the initiator of these two initiatives. The initiator tries very hard to persuade the US to participate in this institution. However, the US did not show any interest at first until it engaged in hot wars in East Asia, and then he participated in the institution and played a dominant role in them. Due to time limits, there are only two limits left for me, so I just skip the example and directly go to the conclusion. Based on my analysis on the case studies, there are three constraints for the institutional balancing games amongst the US, China, Japan, and ASEAN in the process of regional institutions building in East Asia. First, the US alliance system equipped the US with dominant positional advantages in the institutional competition. And second, the rise of China leads to a prospect of a unipolar structure in East Asia. And so China may probably be perceived as a threat to some countries. And third, there are historical hatreds and also disputes among the East Asian countries. So institutional balancing strategies will be employed, I think, in the future. And also, based on our studies in the with the TDR framework, the convergent interactions arise only in the following two circumstances. The first is the region members will commonly have low risk perception, and under that condition, only when there is a low level of systematic risk and low relative disparities in positions and a harmony-state bilateral relation between the region members, there will be a lower level of risk perception, and therefore the attempts to try to establish the RPG mechanism will have a good result. And the second is that when the region members, they have to deal with the commonly perceived threats, they will try to cooperate with each other. And for divergent interactions, when the region members perceive their neighbors as risk sources, the divergent interaction will arise. So what should we do? I think based on the TDR framework, there are three aspects. Maybe what we can control is to manage the disputes. That is to that's to weaken the we can keep the disputes well controlled, and we try to build some mechanisms for managing these disputes. Thus, the disparities may not lead to the risk perception. That's all. Thank you.